Hughie, listen, these women, they're like fine wine, okay? The older they get, the more delicious.
Spoilers for the latest episode of The Boys, and pretty much all of Season 3 and Season 1 and Season 2. Wizard. So after the terrific hero-gasm, we got a more subdued episode of The Boys, kind of the calm before the storm that will no doubt be an explosive finale. Having said that, we got an absolutely jaw-dropping, genuinely shocking twist.
Vogelbaum made a kid. Born spring, 1981. A boy.
That it's blown my mind. I'm so excited to see where the finale's going to go now.
I'd have let you take the spotlight. What father wouldn't want that for his son?
Soldier Boy, it turns out, is Homelander's dear old daddy. And that obviously changes all of the dynamics that we've come to expect from this season of the show. We don't as yet know whether Soldier Boy is going to team up with Homelander, but it seems implied by the idea that he says that, you know, Vought didn't need to top him. They could have just let him step aside. He would have done it willingly, because who wouldn't want that for their son?
The situation's changed. I thought we should have a conversation.
So it seems like possibly Soldier Boy is going to have a newfound respect for Homelander and may want to help him rather than hinder him. And where that leaves the strained team up between him, Billy Butcher and Hughie, we can only wait to find out.
Oh.
I warned you.
It was a theory that I saw bandied about a little bit in the discussions for this season, and it makes total sense, both in terms of the timeline of the show and thematically. In Hero-gasm, Soldier Boy said that, you know, he really would have wanted a family and to have raised some rugrats, and it seems like he's now going to get his wish in a kind of twisted, demented way that only the boys could deliver. And on top of that, I've seen some other fan theories, which to be fair, even predate Soldier Boy. During Season 2, there was a lot of theories that Stormfront was potentially Homelander's mum, due to the nature that she kind of prophesized and wanted Homelander, this blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy, to be leading the charge for her race war.
Because that is Vought's true destiny. And you will be the man who will lead us. He made me. And his genius made you.
Of course, in Hero-gasm, Soldier Boy says that he knew Stormfront when she was called Liberty, and that she was a firecracker.
Me and this other soup, Liberty. Man, was she a firecracker.
So they've potentially hooked up, and, you know, like, I saw a lot of people saying, oh my god, but wait a minute, Stormfront and Homelander had a relationship. If she's his mum, that's so fucking disgusting and fucked up. And this is The Boys. I definitely think they would not shy away from going down that route, and it would just add to the pile of evil that is Stormfront. And it would also screw up Homelander even more. Someone that he thought he had a genuine relationship with is actually his mum. Ugh! In terms of the twist that we got at the end of episode 7, there's still potentially more to come. I mean, Soldier Boy said that he was, you know, he jerked off into a cup, for lack of finesse with my words. And Homelander's always thought of himself as a test tube baby. But we know that Vought lies through their teeth at any chance, at any opportunity. So there still is reason to suspect that if Soldier Boy is confirmed Homelander's daddy, then maybe Stormfront's his mummy. Oh, it's so gross. It's so gross. And I think that would be potentially even more humiliating for Homelander. He's been served a lot of humble pie this season, and I think that would be the cherry on top.
I'm not scared of you anymore. I'm not. I see who you are. I see how small you are.
Speaking of humble pie that Homelander got served, we had a fantastic moment in this episode where Starlight got to reveal Homelander's true colours to her, I think it's 190 million followers, maybe 90 million followers. That was an incredible scene because, you know, he's so confident that no one's going to out him, and he just he just threatens Hughie's life and threatens Starlight, and for her to just turn around and go, oh yeah, I've been live streaming this the whole time.
Pretty famous.
Which is just fantastic, and his reaction to be like, we're running lines, yeah, and as the elevator doors close, he's like, oh fuck. That was beautiful. I've really loved this season, seeing Homelander give less and less of a shit about how the public perceives him, but that has also led to him tightening his grip even more on the people that he can control and wanting them to love him, and it's made him progressively more desperate. So I can't wait to see where that's going to go in the finale. I'm saying that a lot. I can't wait to see where it's going to go in the finale, but I'm genuinely excited about this show and excited about where it goes, and it leaves so many story possibilities in each episode. You're not just sat there going, oh, well, this is obviously going to happen because this show doesn't ever do anything interesting or surprising. It constantly does that. So I'm just... It's been fantastic, hasn't it? Hasn't it?
Not supposed to record us when we're running lines.
Also, very alarming to discover that the temporary compound V actually really screws you up, and if you take it, I believe 4 to 5 times, it spells certain doom, and that was fantastic. And also, it was fantastic to see Billy Butcher when he was trapped in, is it Mindstorm? Mindstorm's twisted version of reality. Where he was forced to relive his childhood days, that he was presented with the idea that he always gets the people around him hurt and killed, including his brother, even though that wasn't quite his fault, but obviously he left him to his own devices and he knew what his dad was going to do. That is capped off perfectly at the end of the episode when we think that Butcher is going to tell Hughie the truth about the temporary V, and instead he's like, no, we need to go and pick some up. But what I'm most interested in with that is the temporary V isn't the only option. As we saw with Kimiko in the same episode, you can take the blue compound V, you can restore your powers, you can get them permanently. And obviously we saw some of the blue V next to the green temporary compound V in episode 7 when Starlight went to go pick some up. So maybe the choice between Butcher and Hughie is going to be, when they get there, oh, by the way, this is going to screw us up. Or we could take this blue V and have powers permanently. I think potentially if Hughie isn't beyond saving, he'll forego any of that stuff. But on the flip side, I think Butcher would totally be down for some blue V because he's got so much unfinished business with Homelander.
I'm gonna save Hughie. Even if he doesn't want me to.
I also think this is the kind of show that, even though Hughie's kind of our protagonist and he's kind of our in for the show from the very beginning, I could totally see them killing him off because there's so many characters and storylines now that could take centre stage. It's really such an ensemble that a character like Hughie is kind of, he's our Jon Snow in a way. He's kind of the character that is safe, really, even though it's a show where anything could happen. He feels like he's never really going to go anywhere. So I think it would be completely shocking if this season was, just kind of like the downfall of Hughie. And he continued to go down this dark road, and the Temp V did screw him up. And it would really double down on the prophecy that Butcher was given in his dream. When he's told, oh, everyone around you dies, you don't really think that Hughie's going to get killed, but at the same time, that would be mind-blowing.
We've got to swing by the office and get some more.
And obviously it would push Starlight even further to test herself and try and remain good in this corrupt world. Although one thing I thought was interesting about Starlight is she was super against Hughie using powers to save the people around him, but she was absolutely fine with Kimiko restoring her powers for that very same reason. Although I'd argue it's slightly different. I can sort of see where Starlight's coming from because, of course, like Kimiko already had that put upon her. She's already lived with the powers. She's already been using her powers for good and to help other people. And it is a part of her intrinsically. Whereas Hughie, this is just something that he's been testing out, and he's really only been using it to save Starlight. It's really ultimately a selfish act, as much as he tries to claim it's to help other people, it's to get his revenge on people like A-Train, and she's seen that firsthand. So I can kind of get my head around the idea that she would not want Hughie to have powers, but she would be fine for Kimiko having powers, although it does seem a little bit hypocritical. And of course this was a massive episode for Black Noir. I think this is probably like the most we've ever gotten out of him, and it's really like recalibrated my sympathies for that character and how you view him. And it's made me think back to, obviously like you sort of classify him as a villain, and he's a murderer, and like very early on in the show he fought Kimiko, and there was that awesome episode in season 2 where he was fighting Butcher and the boys at the house. So he's definitely like an antagonistic threat to the show, but I think we've discovered more and more that he's probably, out of all of the 7, he's the most a pawn of Vought, and he's probably the biggest victim out of the 7, because judging from all the flashbacks we've seen this season, it didn't seem like he was really a bad guy, and he was actually quite a gentle soul in spite of being a soup. And it was just beautiful to see the animated segments, which I thought were really well done, really well animated, and just such a nice shift, because obviously last week we got like some heavy soup on soup action, and it would have been so easy to have done that again this week with the fight between Soulja Boy and the rest of Payback. But I think it works so much better that the show opted to go down that animated route and anthropomorphize everyone. Because I think it had it led to quite a visceral effect when you saw Soulja Boy beating Black Noir so hard that some of his brain falls out. The fact that it's put through that cartoony, childlike lens just lends even more to that character and the mental state that he's now found himself in, because he's kind of like a vegetable in a lot of ways. He's lost a lot of his cognitive abilities, and it's just so sad that he's such a shell of his former self. But I really am stoked to see him potentially avenge that previous part of him and try and get some payback on Soulja Boy in the next episode. And it would also be awesome to see, we've had this unlikely team up between Soulja Boy and Butcher and the boys to go to maybe Black Noir potentially teaming up with them. And from there, like, where could this character go? Maybe, I said that A-Train stands a chance of redemption, but Black Noir hasn't really done any bad things. Like, obviously, yeah, he's murdered a bunch of people in the name of Vought. But again, he is really a victim. He is their weapon, and he seldom really gets a choice. So this is the first time we've really seen him, run away and branch out and try and think for himself again. But yeah, very interesting. And also, like, it was great to see how they've played Soulja Boy this season, culminating in seeing how he treats Black Noir. Because I think unlike Homelander and Stormfront, who are kind of the centerpieces of the first and second seasons, the new big bad nasty soup this season being Soulja Boy, they kind of downplayed his more evil nature, I think. Like, he's talking about all the PTSD he has, and he doesn't admit he has PTSD, but he's talking about what he suffered through with war, supposedly storming the beaches of Normandy and all that sort of stuff, and he doesn't seem as aggressive and as like spiteful and happy to hurt people who he doesn't see have hurt him, and he just seemed to really want revenge on his team. So he seemed more of an anti-hero, or at least closer to the idea of being an anti-hero than obviously Homelander and Stormfront. But now that we've seen the backstory with Black Noir, we've seen even more texture to him being just an absolutely nasty individual.
Why would you say all those horrible things about me to Don Simpson?
You're not funny.
Well, I could have been.
You're not good enough.
Who is willing to bully and lie and overpower anyone to get his way. So maybe Homelander will bring out the worst in him next week. Well, this Friday now. I just can't wait. I also thought this episode was really interesting in terms of examining masculinity and toughness and burying your emotions. I thought it tied the whole episode together when Hughie said that, you know, no one who says they're that tough is that tough. I think that's so true of life and of people that do bury their feelings, particularly men, through this veneer of toughness. All the characters that we saw in that episode that were like that were incredibly troubled or attempted to bury things that have ultimately left them to come undone, like Butcher or Soldier Boy. And it was definitely an episode of dark fathers and watching how their treatment of their sons leads to, you know, the cycle being unbroken and to those things happening again.
That guy's a piece of shit, but it doesn't matter. I don't want to be someone who leaves people behind. I want to be someone who saves his family.
Also, shout out to Charlton Athletic. It seems the Butchers support that team. Go Charlton. I'm not really a huge football fan, but one of my best friends is a huge supporter of Charlton Athletic for his sins. Mr. Jordan Manado.
Legend!
And he used to take me to quite a lot of games back in the day. So I would say, you know, if I support any football team, it's probably Charlton Athletic, even though I don't have a huge breadth of knowledge in their history. But yeah, it seems Billy Butcher is also a fan. Who'd have thunk it? This season's been a really weird experience because it's just sped by, and even though we had 8 episodes, which is a nice, healthy amount, I can't believe we're already at the finale, and I think I'm going to be sad. I think it's going to be a bit bittersweet because I could easily do 4 more episodes of this, and I'm just really hyped to see where season 4 goes. Hopefully it won't take roughly 2 years to come back around. I think they're filming the new season in August. So yeah, like hopefully 2023, The Boys season 4. Man, what a show. What a fantastic show. And what an antidote to what is becoming an increasingly stale superhero genre. I feel like the quality of The Boys is kind of signalling the relative end of superhero dominance, because, you know, with any dominant genre in film and TV, you eventually get to the era of pastiche, of deconstruction, and even though we kind of had that a little early with things like Watchmen and Kick-Ass, I think this show is really doubling down and really delving into the cracks of the genre and just blowing it wide open in such an interesting way. I think it's hard to get really into something like The Boys and then go back to your popcorn candy superheroes and look at them the same, because this show has just delivered such a huge amount of depth and complexity and humanity to these superhero characters that feel like real people because they do terrible things and they screw up, and even the good guys do bad things, and there's just so much dimension to every single character.
Soldier Boy doesn't care about protecting Americans, and he probably never has.
But yeah, what do you think? Who do you think's going to live or die in the finale? What do you think's going to happen vis-a-vis Soldier Boy and Homelander? Do you think they're going to team up? Do you think their relationship's going to become even more strained? And where do you think we're going to end up with Butcher and Hughie and the rest of the boys? A big thank you to my full fat tier patron, Dr. Chike. If you'd like to donate money to my Patreon, you can find me at patreon.com/fullfatvideos.